Okay, welcome everyone to the first episode of the Climate Interfaith podcast. I'm Pranav here, and I have Yingling, my co-host, with me as well. And today we're going to be exploring something very new. It's a potential opportunity for all of us to just have a safe space to talk about two very interesting topics: the climate and sustainability, and religion, right? It's two very interesting topics that is usually not really talked about in Singapore, not as much as we would like to talk about it, and that's exactly why we're having this podcast. But before that, Yingling, you want to tell us more about how all of this started off?
So Pranav and I are from Climate Interfaith, and we started as friends from the Climate Youth Development Program. And there we realized that we have so many youths in Singapore who are interested in sustainability, and yet we come from such different backgrounds. And many of us are very, very passionate in our climate space, yet we have different faith backgrounds, and we thought, why not marry these two spaces together and see how we can push for more social cohesion and climate. And that's why we thought of creating Climate Interfaith, a youth network where we can have a platform to look at these two areas and find the intersection and have conversations like this.
So today we have with us three esteemed guests. We'll let them introduce themselves in a bit, but the whole idea is they're all from different faith communities, and today's conversation is really just going to be very exploratory, a very safe space for us to just talk about these matters and just keep it casual and have fun. Yeah. So let's start off with Father Colin. Please do introduce yourself.
Oh, thank you very much, PK. It's wonderful for me to be here. And I guess the first thing that I want to share with you is how I got into this, because I was in Chiang Mai for my retreat. And then when I got the invitation from you and through Gail from Caritas, I was say, oh no, I'm really busy today. I got so many things back to back. Then I was praying about it. And then finally on the last day, the topic was on collaboration. So I say, okay, that's my answer. How can I back out of this? So I think I jump in because of that. And partly because my involvement is with the parish. I'm from the Church of St. Ignatius. So when I became parish priest about 8 years ago, I was very passionate about the importance of our contribution to the climate crisis that we experience. And truly the inspiration for me came from Pope Francis, as you know, with his book that he published called Laudato Si, or Praise Be to the Lord, which is an important document that really kickstart the whole initiative of religions, of the church also being responsible for the climate crisis that we experience, and how he analyzes what we can do. And if I may say that there are actually 7 areas that he has kind of outlined very briefly. The first is called the cry of the earth, meaning to say we look at what's going on in the world, and certainly we are aware of the crisis that we experience in terms of the heat wave that we experience, in Europe. Even here, we experience unseasonal weather pattern changes. So that is the cry of the earth. The second is the cry of the poor, meaning the poor are the ones who often are impacted by climate crisis. The farmers, the ones who grow fruits. I remember just recently there was a crisis where in Turkey, some of the apricot farmers lost a lot of tons of apricot because of change in weather pattern. Frost kind of destroyed the crop, So I say, wow, what has that got to do with us? Very simple, because I buy apricot for my fruits from NTUC. Then I say, oh, from Turkey, So what I'm trying to say is, we think that some event so far away has nothing to do with us, but it has, because if the supply dwindles, then the prices of apricot will go up. Yep. That will infect me.
Yeah.
So that's the second thing. If I may just add a few more points, is that The next thing is about community action. So with all that we see, we can do something together. And Laudato Si addresses not just the Catholic Church, but it's actually to everyone of goodwill, to humanity. Yeah? So this is the beauty of this document and letter from Pope Francis, where he really invites everyone in terms of our religious convictions, of faith. It doesn't matter. We all need to pitch in to do something to make a difference. And then he talks about what we can do. So there are 3 areas that he kind of look into for everyone, whether it's business. So he calls ecological economy. So how can businesses build into the understanding of how they can contribute to the well-being of the climate crisis, and through their policies, through the practices, through cutting down on carbon emission, on pollution, on wastage, so many things that they can do. So that's ecological economy. The next one is ecological education, meaning to say we all need to be educated. So I would advocate that we need to always be aware of what's happening to Mother Earth, to our common homeland, that we have to really act because we are in a state of crisis already.
Yep.
And so that's ecological education. The third ecological point is called ecological spirituality, meaning regardless of our faith profession, we all are interconnected. We are part of the earth. We are all also citizens and part of humanity, where one part is suffering, all of us are impacted. So it's the understanding that we all belong to the human family, created by a creator, by God, however we conceive of God, so that we have a responsibility to look after each other, to care for each other's well-being. And so that's the thing. And then finally, for me, is to see how we can make sure that we do something at a personal level called sustainability, our lifestyle, in terms of how we mitigate that in our own actions, personal actions, It can be what I call to reduce, consumption, to reduce wastage, to recycle, of course, and then to repurpose and to reuse. Those are practical things. And for me, I know that in Singapore, we don't think very much, because one of the problems I find is that plastic usage is so bad, You just need to go anywhere. It's really, to me, I call it a nightmare. Single-use plastic cups. You buy a fruit juice. That fruit juice cup, plastic is thrown away after that. You buy any fruit, they give you in styrofoam. They give you in plastic. So I personally have made a conscious effort to now even bring my own bottle, for example, using a glass bottle, rather than use a plastic. I will never accept anyone who offers me a plastic bottle of water. I say thanks, but no thanks, So these are little things in terms of sustainability and change of lifestyle. The word can be conversion, okay? So finally, the word is community action. That's where I think we come in here. And I'm so happy that we are able to talk about this in this platform where it's not biased in terms of religion and how we can work together. And that's wonderful, because in a multiracial society, I think it is imperative for us to know how to work together. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Father Colin, for, the relatively long introduction. I don't think we were expecting.
Sorry about that.
No. I think you did cover a few points that we will go back to, where, especially when we talk about how sustainability transcends religion, right? Regardless of spirituality, we have one earth, we got to take care of it, and we all have our own responsibilities when it comes to it. But let's move on to introducing Ustaza Lina.
Okay.
Right? Yes.
All right. So I won't have as long, but
It's fine.
I'll try to just introduce myself first. So I am Ustaza Lina. I am, you would say, a freelance religious educator. And I am also the chairperson of Center for Interfaith Understanding, or we call ourselves as CIFU for short. So my involvement here, mainly because of my work as an interfaith practitioner. not so much in the climate stuff, but I will try to share as much as possible in terms of what the religion teaches and in terms of what have been done by the community in Singapore and also abroad, and just be here to support your initiative. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the support. Yeah. Looking forward to hear more. And lastly, we have Mr. Bernard. Yes.
Hi everybody, I'm Bernard Bay from Tzu Chi Merit Singapore. In Tzu Chi Merit Singapore, we are driving a lot of activities under faith, under Buddhism. And I got very excited when I heard about this because in Buddhism, right, it is about, study of the nature and then realization of the self-cultivation from the law of nature. So looking forward to a lot more discussion and learning from others today, and then how we can contribute and help each other in achieving what we want to achieve. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you to all of our three guests for the quick introduction. Yingling, do you want to start off with the main questions for today?
Yeah, I think for many of us youths who are interested in the climate space with faith backgrounds, actually we see that life can be very relentless, and spaces like faith and nature, they are very giving for us and very abundant. So we would like to first ask you guys, when you think about nature, is there a moment or a place that feels sacred to you to maybe ground us in the topic of nature for today? Yep. Maybe we'll start from Father Colin.
Yeah.
Maybe I will just quickly chip in. I remember years back when I was very young, I had a bit of a crisis, meaning I was trying to look for meaning in life. It's like the dark ages of adolescence.
No.
Yeah. It was terrible. I also had that. So I remember jogging all the way to Punggol 17th Avenue. It was a beach there, and I remember getting there and then finding so much comfort. Just hearing the sound of the waves, and especially the setting of the sun. And that really moved me very much to understand the wonders and the beauty of creation and of nature, that it became such a strong moment of connection and solace for me, that I was quite comforted somehow. And I felt very peaceful, and it kind of gave me a certain direction and understanding of my place in God's creation or the universe, So that was my kind of magical moment.
So the beach at sunset with the waves. Okay. Yes. Very, very beautiful.
Thank you. Yes.
All right. I guess for me, everywhere is sacred. In the concept of Islam, anywhere on this earth is considered sacred enough for you to establish prayer. So like for the Muslim, we don't really need to be in a mosque, in a consecrated place to actually do our prayers. Anywhere that is clean is already good enough. And I think just being in nature and being surrounded by nature is something that is really humbling. My personal favorite moment, humbling moment, is always when I fly. I don't fly as much now, but when I had the chance to fly, right? Just being up there in the sky, miles and miles away from the ground, and yet you see outside of the window, the sun setting or the sun rising. And it really humbles you because it reminds you of who you are in comparison to what nature is. Nature is so big, so magnificent, so strong, and we are so small, right? We are just like a speck of what the universe is. And yet we as human, right? When I say we as human, we tend to think that we are bigger than that. And we make things our-centric, we center ourselves rather than we make nature and the universe as part of this whole relationship. So that's my, I would say, reflective moment whenever I am with nature. It's not just when I'm in the sky. It's also when I enter into like a forested area or any area that has a lot of green. Yeah, because when we see the green, we are reminded of, wow, this is such a wonderful creation. And when we look at the creation, we are reminded of the Creator. So it goes back to the remembrance of God.
So the
Thank you for sharing that.
sheer scale of how big nature is, right? Though flying might not be the most sustainable way to be experienced.
Safe space.
Maybe
This is
Google
a
Maps.
safe
Google
space.
Maps. You zoom in and zoom out. Yeah. Okay, Mr. Bernard.
Yeah, there are a couple of moments which I want to share, and I resonate well with Lina, Mr. Lina, on the coexistence, the moment of feeling the coexistence with nature. And I just joined Chichi about 11 years ago, and I vividly remember in September 2014. I went back to Chichi Jingshi abode in Taiwan, and it's a coastal area between the mountainous area and the beach. And then it's full of trees, surrounded by trees and greens, and a lot of bushes around as well. And early in the morning, 5:15, our founder, Master Chen Yen, actually gave a Dharma talk every single morning until 6:10. And then we were in the hall listening to the Dharma talks. And during that moment, the silence of the dawn in the morning, and only the sound, the voices of Master Chen Yen, together with the chirping sound of the birds early in the morning. And that moment made me realize that we are not alone. Yeah, we are in coexistence with the surrounding that we have, the nature that we have. Only the sound of birds, and then led me to think about a lot of other things. And after learning Buddhism since then on, whenever I'm beneath, standing under the Bodhi tree, led me to think that 2,500 years ago, Buddha actually meditated under the tree for 49 days, and he attained his enlightenment at the dawn or at the first morning star. And every now and then when I'm under the Bodhi tree, it led me to think of that moment, and then it symbolizes actually the Bodhi tree or the nature, the symbols of awakening, and the coexistence between the human, the mankind, and the nature or the environment surrounding us. And I think that is something that we can learn from nature as part of life or in this lifetime. Yeah.
Definitely. The whole serenity of I particularly enjoy the birds chirping in the morning, right? When you wake up a bit too early and the rest of the neighborhood hasn't, you get to experience that as well.
Yeah.
It's a very beautiful moment, and thanks for sharing that part where I think across all three sharings, what we see is that there are quite a few overlaps, right? And this is exactly the kind of overlap that we want to be discussing about. So the next question I want to delve slightly deeper into is, in your respective faith, what do they cover when they talk about the environment particularly? Anyone? Mr. Bernard, maybe since you were talking about the Bodhi tree, and it's a very relevant.
Sure. I mean, the one of the teachings by our founders, Master Chen Yen, and then and I try to resonate that with what I learned in the school. I'm a chemical engineer by training. And I learned of all these, the material balance and the systems, ecosystems as well, how the balance of the systems in and out and accumulations. And throughout the years, throughout the mankind's history, right, we learn and we had our lessons from the nature, be it all the man-made or the natural disaster that we had. Now, Master Chen Yen actually teaches us to revering the heavens and love the earth. It actually translates from the Chinese tradition culture of revering the heaven but fearing the earth, just because of all the lessons that we've learned from the nature, interfacing with the nature. Now, Master Chen Yen tried to interpret it in a very positive way, not fearing the earth, but loving the earth. Just for the simply for the recognizing the sacredness of the nature through the aspects or perspective of respect and the compassion to the nature. And that brings us to think, all nature our nature is actually in a constant change, and it is actually living and coexist together with us. And in a Jing Si aphorism of Master Cheng Yen, one of the quotes, a very remarkable quote, which I always remember, she said that when we walk, we got to walk gently, fearing that the earth might feel the pain. That kind of compassion and the love that we have to the nature, it tells us, and it actually resonates very well with the very strong teachings in Buddhism, that every physical matters, everything that we see in this nature is actually temporary. You come and go, and it's in constant change mode. It forms from fire, water, wind, in 4 elements, and earth. But it forms, it exists, it declines, and then it goes to empty at the end. But what we can do is to try to prolong its existence. Again, if you apply and reflect this to the nature, we got to extend its existence as long as possible, and then make full use of it, and then slow down the decline. And that's how we should treat our nature, and then try to live together with our environment. Yeah.
So the key lesson here is loving our planet, right? Loving it even when we step on it, right? We try to love it and create less pain as possible. Okay, that's a unique perspective, a different quote I've not heard before.
Okay, I think I was very interested in the last part where you say that, nature will eventually end, right? Will eventually become empty, but we have to prolong it. And I feel that it resonated with our understanding about beginning and end, because from the Islamic understanding, there's a beginning, but there's also an end. And then there's the afterlife, right? So saying that nature will eventually end, it sometimes make people feel very apocalyptic, and very pessimistic, especially when they are facing with the overwhelming issues of climate change. So they may feel that, even if I do something as small as not using plastic bag, I couldn't change the world. We are doomed, or something like that. So I feel that this understanding is not helpful. It actually make you give up, even though you are thinking about the afterlife, which many Muslims aspire to think about and actually strive for. But I think having a correct understanding of what we need to do is actually much more helpful. And this is where I come in. There's a lot of teachings actually in the tradition of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and also the Quranic teaching that talks about nature, environment, and we can actually say that 1/8 of the Quran talks about nature in general, either to ask the believers to reflect on the nature, to think about your action, but everything is actually goes back to the person, because we are talking about the believer, right? So the human. So it's not about what nature can do or what is nature, but rather what are you in comparison to nature? What are you when you are in nature? So the focus of the religious teaching is actually about responsibility, accountability, with the privilege that is given to you as a human. Because one of the core principle or core teaching is, humans are made are given a higher status in comparison to all the other creations, partly because of the intellect that is given to them. So it is a privilege, it is a right, that they have, that they can enjoy. But you should not abuse it, and therefore you should be accountable and responsible. So there's this concept of vicegerency on earth, or being the trustee on earth. The Arabic term is khalifa. That's where you get the caliphate, the political caliphate thing. But actually, when you think about it, right, we shouldn't go too far into politics and power, and really look at how this concept is really individual first. It's an individual responsibility to be responsible for how you treat the world. Yeah, there's a lot more, but I'll pause on that first. And then, maybe we can.
I want to thank you, Lina, because today she helped to reconfirm again a lot of my understanding. There are a lot of similarities between Buddhism and the Islamic teachings. Yeah, thank you very much for
no
your sharing.
problem.
Thank you. So if I may chime in also, I think what has been shared by Bernard and Ustaz Lina, I think they truly also help us to unpack the meaning of how we who are created by God have a duty and responsibility to what we call not to be masters of the earth, meaning we exploit the earth. In Genesis text, sometimes that is misunderstood that way. But it is more for us to be steward of God's creation, to till and care for the land. So the tilling part is, of course, we work hard and, we earn a living. But the care part often is neglected. You know how sometimes in situations, people are very good in starting off a project, but very bad in maintaining or to sustain or even to care. So I think care is a key word that I think resonates with whether it's expressed in reverence, gentleness, compassion, about recognizing the way we understand our place in society, the individual responsibility to look after everything and everyone. So I think that is really wonderful, because for me, I think one of the key texts that I've come across, which is really very interesting, is from the scripture of Matthew chapter 13 and verse 31. It says, the kingdom of God is like a mustard seed, where the farmer goes out to sow, and it is the smallest of seed, and yet it becomes the biggest of the garden shrub or tree, where birds can take shelter in it. So to me, it points out to, again, the sowing of seed. And they say only one mustard seed, so small, so insignificant, and yet can become such a very important tree to provide shelter, to provide food, seed. So I think, to me, it seems to be that we're invited to care, to reverence, and to also share God's wonders and beauty and God's providence with everyone, regardless, And to me, it's the power of one. One single small mustard seed is good enough.
So be it one small mustard seed or one individual, there's so much overlap. It's I get goosebumps because I'm listening to how...
Yeah, wonderful.
Put aside who is saying this, right? Regardless of who it is. Anyone from your faith just sharing about this. The overlaps between the lessons and the stories that you're sharing is just so amazing to reflect on, right? You're talking about loving the earth. You're talking about your personal responsibility. You're talking about coexisting with nature and respecting it and caring for it. It's really just it's an eye-opening experience to hear it specifically from the three. Because personally, I'm Hindu, and me listening to the Hindu side of, since we don't have a Hindu representative here, it's very similar to what we believe in as well. Where we believe in the stewardship of the earth. We believe that we are connected to the earth as well, and we should be responsible for it. And that energy flows among all of us, right? Okay.
For me, it's really beautiful to see how nature has really inspired so many religious texts and so many foundational thoughts across the different religious spectrums. And it's very nice to hear how we are also seeing ourselves as the individuals, the people who actually have the power to be part of this process and choose how we want to be part of this ever-changing process of, nature, earth. And I think that really brings us back to the conversation to where actually you mentioned at the start of how now we should consider maybe what is our role as individuals. What can we do? So maybe if I could get some of you to share what are some individual actions you've done in terms of to help with sustainability and promote environmental awareness.
Since I was the last one, maybe I can also speak out from here.
Yes, please.
I mentioned the power of one. So I sometimes also get overwhelmed by all the, the climate crisis and the bigger problems about things that are beyond our control, And yet I think the power of one means that every single individual has the capacity to make a difference. So I would encourage that everyone, the young people especially, this world belongs to you. The future is yours. You have to really do something now. Don't wait for the future to come. Do it now. And the way I look at it is in terms of 3 A's, if I may say. The first A is to be aware. Be aware of what's happening because, if you read about all the news about the heat wave in Europe, you see the floods in so many places. You read about also how farmers are affected, or refugees, we call that climate refugees, meaning people who are migrating from countries to country because the land no longer is sustainable for them in their farming, or fishing is no longer viable, so they had to become refugees. So be aware of the problems faced by people around us. Then we can do something. So the second is be active. Be active is for us to truly take action, to even just organize something like what you do. I'm really very happy that among the youth we have this climate interfaith forum, which is a good way to activate and to connect even all of us here, to provide a platform for us to work together. I think that is something which I'm also very passionate that we cannot exist by ourselves. So that's where the power of one. Be active and do what you can. Like I mentioned, your personal lifestyle change, all those points I mentioned. I think we can make a difference. Lowering your aircon temperature,
25.
you might think it's insignificant, but it does make a difference. Every degree apparently saves you a lot of money. Lowering from, 22 to 26 or 27, not everyone might agree with me, but I sometimes not even use aircon at all. I know that this is quite impossible in Singapore, but I use the fan, I would just put it to the low speed or whatever. So these are little things that we can make a difference. And the third A is for us to be answerable, meaning to say we must remember that we're answerable to not just ourselves, to our family, to society. We're answerable to our Creator, to God who created us, and say, I have given you this beautiful earth. When you come into the earth, are you going to leave this earth a better place? That is always my philosophy. They always say, if you use a room, use a toilet, I'm going to leave it a better place, cleaner than before, so that the next person who uses it will find it nice. Your table and the hawker food center, you clean it so that the next person can come and, will be quite happy to sit down without cleaning it. So being answerable to living whatever, a place, the world, a better place.
Oh, that's beautiful. I think that was very grounding to hear that we are not isolated individuals. We are part of a larger community. And on a more serious note, we have to be answerable to what we choose, our actions. Yeah, maybe Lina?
Yes. I think the points that I'm about to share is similar because I believe that, all religion, they teach similar things, all for the benefit of mankind. And it got me thinking about, we are so privileged in Singapore. It's very easy for us to individually be part of the, climate sustainability, but because first, the government is supporting. There's a lot of things from top down that helps us to have a better awareness, promote, recycling and everything. But top down may not actually give the most change if ground up, it's not something that is willingly changed inside. Yep. So it's also about the mindset, no amount of people trying to push you the understanding of what it is is enough if you yourself feel that this is not important. So I think this is where religion comes in, because religion really touches the core of our humanity, of our existence, and it sets the direction of how we want to lead our life. So every religion may have their own different direction, but with these teachings, it can help each individual to see that, oh, this is not just because of money, right? Because I want to save, because if you do this, then you can save some money. Or it's not because of, just climate, but it's also a religious duty that they have. Which is, I think, from my perspective, this is an important part, because Muslims tend to think that, religion is lifestyle. So whatever I do, it has to be something that is related to how I lead my life. So what I see is lacking in the larger Muslim community is that interconnectedness of seeing that it is a religious duty to not be wasteful, to save water when you are taking ablution, to don't waste food whenever you have iftar, and all of these things. Because we tend to compartmentalize how we practice the religion. We tend to think, religion is about right and wrong, doing good, doing bad, towards you and God, sometimes towards people, but never about you and the universe, or you and nature. You never really think about, am I doing a bad thing to nature? You always think just about human, because human can answer or human can defend themselves. But the universe and the creation, other creations that are unable to, stand up for themselves, we often do not really think whether our actions are unjust towards them.
Right.
Yeah, because justice is a very core principle in Islamic teaching, but it is often seen in a very, very narrow way. Yeah, and being unjust is not just like political injustice or like social injustice, but it's also being unjust to your surrounding, which is, I think, it's something that is important, and therefore, coming back to your question, what can myself as an individual do, is actually to continue this teaching, try to merge these two things. Yeah, because like, for example, if I can share, like in the mosque in Singapore, right, there are efforts, the taps that we use for our ablution, they install something so that the water will be like very little. So you can't really open at full force, it will just dribble the amount that is needed. Yeah, but people may say that, this one's so troublesome. Because if it's a little, then it takes more time for me to like wash and things like that. But and so this is where I come in lah. Sometimes top down they try to enforce, but if the person cannot really understand, they will just see this as troublesome. Why must bring my own bag? Because they cannot link that. This is actually a religious duty. Yeah, if only they can see that this is part of who you are as a Muslim, as a human being, right? To be just to your surrounding. Yeah, so I feel that, yes, all the sustainable things that are taught to us is good to be practiced, but also step ahead is to actually understand, about why you should be doing it, not just for the sake of peer pressure of society, but also for your own self lah. Yeah.
So not just following rules, but also understanding why we're doing it, changing that mindset at the core. And I think similar to what you mentioned, it's really just following through, right? Not just applying the religious rules to other humans, and not just focusing on the tilling part, but also about the caring part of things. That's something, we do often forget, because, well, which plant is going to come to us and say, hey, care for me? But a human, on the other hand, might. So it's interesting to see that we're treating two very equally important things in very different ways. What's your take on? I have another question, but I'll wait till I hear your perspective as well, because it's more on the youth side of things. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to thank Father Colin because he raised the power of one, and also that resonates very well with the Lotus Sutra in Buddhism, where in Buddhism there's a phrase from one of parables is actually talking about the power of one, and the one can lead us to indefinite in future. So don't underestimate the power of one, and that brings down the capability and the capacity of individuals. And when we talk about the nature, Buddhism, there are two things always in the Dhamma Sutra that talks about nature, and one is water, the other one is tree, the tree. And that brought me to think that in Tzu Chi, we actually encourage, and we actually, all the Tzu Chi volunteers, most of the commissioners, volunteers like me wearing blue shirts, blue uniform, we are vegetarians. Yeah, so we are full-time vegetarians. So what we want to cultivate ourselves is the feeling of the compassionate of not only loving the sentient beings or the living things, but also the earth that we're in. Nowadays, we know that to produce all the meat, we're actually cutting down a lot of trees in the South America nowadays, just in order to produce that kind of food that human being that is consuming. And we are trying to encourage everybody, and that's what the Buddhism teaching as well. Not only we want to take care of the environment that we are in, showing our care and compassion to the environment, but also to us ourselves. In religion, I think we talk about a lot about the body that we have, and also the soul, our inner self that we have. Now, in order to take care of our body, being vegetarianism is one of the good ways to take care of the health, and that's what we are doing a lot in Tzu Chi Foundation, in Tzu Chi Merit and activities, and all the one of the things that we are trying to cultivate and trying to influence and encourage a lot more people to join us to be vegetarian, on top of all the recycling activities and environmental activities that we are pursuing. Yeah.
If I may chime in on this, because I remember when I was growing up, even my grandmother, who didn't have much of a religion, but still she inculcated this simple value: say, do not even waste a single grain of rice.
Yeah.
So my bowl was always
Empty.
clean, not a single grain was rice. And then she said, if you do, next time you will not marry a pretty girl, you will have a lot of pock marks on her face. Well, I never got married, so anyway. And then just to add to that is that Pope Francis said, to waste food is to steal from the poor. I thought that when I heard that, I was quite shocked, So to waste food is to steal from the poor. So I mean, we, and Singapore especially, I think the amount of wastage in food consumption is, I think, unconscionable, reprehensible even. So I think maybe good that young people can start some kind of campaign or whatever, to really cut down on wastage. Is terrible, yeah.
So that's very related when you brought up young people. So I am still young. Though, yes, I've just graduated. But my take on it, and I'm saying this because I've met many people across different walks of life, especially doing NS as well. When I was serving NS, you see a lot of food wastage, and you also meet people from different religions and different backgrounds, right? The common question before I even got into this climate space is really, why should I care? Because as a youth in Singapore, we pretty much have a lot of resources compared to other parts of the world. We have a lot of resources, right? We might not value it as much, but we actually do have quite a bit of resources. And it comes pretty cheap to us as well. So the value of it goes down to a certain extent. And all the awareness that you were talking about of something that's happening in other countries, right? Even be it our neighbors in Indonesia, Malaysia, or ASEAN countries, it doesn't really affect us directly. Indirectly, yes, the price of our apricots do go up, but the youth don't really feel that pinch, do they? So then comes the question, how do we then get young people, not just people like my age, but even younger, to understand, because they usually tend to follow their parents. They are brought to different religions, and that's who we usually grow up with. How do we get these young people to actually see the value of caring for the environment, even though it's not something that we feel the pain of?
Yeah, I want to bring up the Father Colin, your point about being aware. Now, I'm a chemical engineer by training. If we are aware, the world is producing about like 120 million tons of plastics nowadays. Now, these 120 tons of plastics, it goes everywhere. It goes into the foremost in the medical field and also in the food packaging. Assuming today we didn't invent plastic, all the fresh foods wouldn't get into the middle of India or the South Africa. They wouldn't be able to get all the fresh food that we're producing, just simply because the plastics or the films would be able to contain and keep the food fresh to somebody, a kid, a child in the middle of South Africa. He can get a fresh strawberry at the end of the day for his life. And we would have a lot more children understaffed and, died because of hunger. And in medical field, without plastics, a lot of things can't be done. Now, what is the danger of plastic is 10% end up in the sea. That is the downside of the plastic use. So there is a downside of the knowledge reach to certain people, certain communities and countries in the world that we need to educate. And we need to have proper waste management that would gives or make the plastic usage more meaningful and more controlled. Now, does it say that 10%, 12 million tons of plastics end up in the sea? Does it affect our life? Yes, it affects us without us knowing. All these plastics, it will degrade over time, and then it will end up into our food. A lot of people, being non-vegetarian, we are taking seafood every day. It end up somewhere in our body without us knowing. It accumulates, and being young, you'll be able to enjoy the life, but after a certain time, you start to see the effect of it. Now, that brings us again to the topic of awareness. And today I see a lot more young people like you, yourself, and a lot more. I have engaged also with a lot of young people, and they start to realize the impact, the lifestyles that they have. And the world we are in today, it will impact not today, but 20 years down the road. Now, and that resonates very well to the concept of Buddhism again. Buddhism, we are talking about the existence and then decline. And then we believe that, we have lives after lives. And then it may not be in the same form, but one day I may come back as a fish, eating up all the plastic that I threw into the sea today. Right? And that brings us how I want to be a responsible individual today. So that because Buddhism talks a lot about causality, the root cause and the cause of us doing something and then having the impact coming to us one day. And, the teachings of Buddhism will let us not to do certain things and to promote all the good things that we should be doing today.
Okay. Wow. So that idea of it's all interconnected, so we have to take care of it today as a young person, because it's going to eventually come back to us at some point in the future.
It is. It goes in cycle.
It goes in cycles. Okay.
Okay. When we talk about youth and young people, I have small children myself, and the nice thing about kids is that they absorb things pretty fast. And sometimes when we forget, they will remind. So we as a family have recently started to, venture into recycling. Or just to give context, I don't live in Singapore. I actually live in JB.
Right.
So it's very much harder to do recycling on a daily basis for your home waste. in Malaysia, depending on where you are at. So I try to, let's try to wash the plastic and all these recyclable materials, put it aside. And then, they would sometimes remind me, oh, mommy, this cup, we should wash first. We should not throw. Sometimes I forgot about it. I say, okay, just throw it. Then my son will say, oh no, cannot throw. You say we must recycle. So is this, the teaching have to start small. And it's not just about, what recycle is, but rather it's about the love of nature, the love of everything that is around them. My son, just yesterday, he told me, we saw some caterpillars, but unfortunately, 2 of my friends stomped on the caterpillar, and I'm so sad. So I was moved by his sharing, because he could see something that is wrong, that is done to nature, and he voiced it out. And it all goes back to, again, the mindset. Why is it that youth in Singapore don't see a point of being part of this whole climate advocacy, doing things for Earth, sustainability? Why? What is actually the root cause of it? It's about thinking about themselves, right? Because it doesn't impact them, therefore they don't care. But we have to make them think beyond themselves. So how can we inculcate this love for others? Even if they are non-believers, they don't have any religion that they affiliate themselves with, it does not mean that they cannot, appreciate this kind of teachings, because love for nature is something that is, I feel, something intrinsic within human. And if only they can just move themselves from not putting them at the center, at the top of the food ecosystem, but rather see themselves as part of this symbiotic relationship we have with the universe, they will be able to see that, whatever that I do impacts and affects the rest. And like from the Islamic perspective, there's this sense of reciprocity. Even among humans, right? We treat others as how we would like to be treated. Yep. And it does not and should not be restricted to human. It should also be to the universe. And this is where I think, and also maybe because Singapore, we are a modern city-state, right? We do not have so much of a sense of attachment to our history or to the natural way of life. Many of the kids today don't have kampung experience. So they may be detached from, seeing the nature as part of them, but just as surrounding, but not belonging. So I guess we have to bring them back to nature, bring them back to the communities that are actually in touch with nature. So I would actually suggest our youth to be more in touch with actually the indigenous people, because the indigenous people are the people that truly walk the talk when it comes to sustainability, treating the earth as part of theirs, because they see themselves like, okay, we get things from nature, everything, food, medicine and everything, but we don't take everything. We only take what is needed. And this kind of, wisdom in controlling yourself, constraint in consumption habit is something that we need to learn from different lens lah. Yeah, not just like, consumeristic is not just about the material things that are sold on in shopping malls or in Shopee and things like that, right? But it's also about the way you actually use and utilize nature. Yeah.
Wow. That's I'm unpacking things slowly in my brain. Like, wow, it's a lot to cover. But it's good to know that your son cares about and he grew up with those values, right? We need more of that. So that's nice to hear. Father Colin?
Thank you. So it's wonderful to hear the various examples. For me, I think it comes down to why should I care, right? I think it's about self-love, self-care. Self-love not in a selfish way, but in a way that we value, we reverence, and we understand that there is a greater power, creator, who has created us to be intrinsically connected. We are part of the integral relationship that we have with people around us. We are social beings. So my action will always impact somebody else's rights, and my action will also impact on the way creation can either be better or worse. So I think that self-care is not just about the love of the self, but also about care for creation, to love creation, to love the environment, to love, nature that I live in. And the examples are true. Those are the examples which are very much part of the way we can look at our lifestyle, which is so urbanized. And I think it's nothing like a person taking time out to be in touch with nature, visit the forest. Indigenous people have a lot of wisdom to share with us that we have lost. I grew up in a kampong, so to be frank, I'm a farmer at heart. So that's why I've initiated the Green Ministry in my parish, when I first took over 2018. And then we also initiated the Climate Action Conference that was organized in the 6th of November 2019. So this was also an inspiration from Pope Francis about integral economy and ecology. So I think young people can do a lot to really effect change and to make this world a better place when they can learn to care for themselves, to also care for nature.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Yingling, you want to round things off with a couple more?
Oh, there was a lot of things I am slowly absorbing. Yeah. I guess thank you for all the sharing of all the things that we can do as individuals, because as youths, some of us, we maybe have a lot of things we are interested in, and then others, we care about the environment, but we're like, the world is on fire, what can I do, right? So it was very interesting to hear the different ways, different ideas for us to get involved and also see ourselves as agents of change. I guess maybe then, maybe just something more inspiring. What can you give for the youth in the of sharing what gives you hope as leaders and practitioners in different faith backgrounds in the climate movement? Yeah, to help us stay strong and stay hopeful in this very dynamic, ever-changing world. Yeah.
Well, I may start. Okay. In Tzu Chi Foundation, we have a lot of recycling, and in Singapore we have like 40 points of recycling in the HDB lobbies, 4 years across the whole island of Singapore. But it started back in the 90s, one of the public talk by Master Chen Yen. And during the talk, on the way to the hall, she saw on the road, because of after the Pasar Malam overnight, the whole street was filled with trash. And during the talk, she quoted that, why don't we use our clapping hands to start doing recycling? And then that simple message was picked up by one of the lady as a public who attended the talk. And she started to do recycling at home, save things, cut down all the usage, and also sorting things out. And that, started the whole recycling and also environmental protection missions in Tzu Chi. And today, as of today, we have like 100,000 of environmentalists, volunteers around the world in Tzu Chi world, and we have like 8,000 recycling points across almost like 20 countries around the world. Now, what can you do as youth, right? And also as individual? One of the Jing Si aphorism quote by Master Chen Yen, I want to quote the Jing Si aphorism by Master Chen Yen again, is, Master Chen Yen says that don't underestimate yourself, you can do wonders. And there's a metaphor in Tzu Chi Foundation that every one of us is actually like a firefly. And there's a light in all of us, like, Mustaz Lina mentioned just now. There's love inside all of us. There's light inside all of us. And once you lit up this light and you get together all this light, it can brighten up the darkness. Right? And Master Chen Yin always, described us, the volunteers, Tzu Chi volunteers, as small ants. And being small ants, collectively, we can actually do something big. And there are a lot of stories in the Dhamma Sutra that talks about, the power of the individual who can influence and promote a lot more result and impact at the end of the day. And what you need to do is to believe. The belief is very important. Yeah. Either to believe in yourself or to believe in the mission that you are trying to cultivate or you are trying to achieve. And the power of one, as Father Colin brought up just now, the power of one, it can bring us to infinite. And I want to bring up another quote by our ex-Prime Minister, and resonates very well in the recent Prime Minister's speech to a group of youth which I attended. He mentioned that, the generations of pioneer, and the generations of the X-gen, in the past, where the population of Singapore grew, and then the economics grew, the GDP grew over the years. And now we are in these generations where he was speaking to the group of youth, and he said that exactly, the way that he spoke is probably different than what I'm going to tell. But the idea is, he's encouraging all the youth to utilize all the resources, because you are in the generation where you have all the resources and you have the power to influence the world. Singapore is a very fortunate place. We are blessed with all the things that we need to live and all the resources that we have. We get good education, we have parents, we live in a very good neighborhood and country, and we have a very good governance. Our government is providing all sorts of things that we need to live. And you are in the generations where you are equipped with all the resources that you need. So utilize all these resources and you can make wonders. Singapore can be a focal point where we can influence the world. We can have our footprints across the globe to help to influence and bring that flagship of living and coexist with the nature and the environment. And that's what I think you can do and you can contribute. And of course, you will get support from all of us, in all the efforts that you are championing. That's what the message, and that's advice that I can encourage all the youth today in Singapore that you can achieve.
Yeah. Thank you for that. We have a lot to be grateful for.
Yes.
Thank you.
Youth have energy. They have the most energy. They have the most time.
That's what we're lacking sometimes.
Yes. So I think we as youth, I still call myself youth. I'm still I'm still within the range. But we need to still have hope. Yes, the world seems like is going down, but like what and here I want to bring a saying from the Prophet, where the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, even, okay, I'm just paraphrasing, but he said that even if you have even if you are at the end of time, and you have a seedling in your hand, you plant it. Even though that the end of time is very near, it's going to happen in a few moments or what, but if you have the chance to plant something, you plant, because whatever that you plant will benefit everyone, not just yourself, the nature, and all the beings within it. And so what this actually tells me is there's always hope. And yes, we cannot really end world problem, and I think we should not think about that actually, because it can be very overwhelming. So don't think that we should get that change within our lifetime. I think this is something that we need to tell youth, that sometimes change is slow, but we need to sustain it, because it could be the next generation that can actually reap from it. So you do not feel defeated if you feel that you cannot get what you are fighting for in this time. Yeah, because you are taking the torch from your predecessors and you're passing it to the front, to the next generation. So don't feel that the weight is on your back because people say youth is the future. Right? You try to also see that, it's a long process. And this is where I would touch on to what Father Colin has shared about being aware. I think just getting more awareness, not just about, the technicalities of what climate change is, how to recycle, but also understanding how did the world get to where it is now? What has happened? What has made this happen? Who is responsible? And to move forward. Not to understand, who is responsible, therefore we must blame them and we must attack them, but also to see, okay, how can we move forward? Yes, we can demand accountability, talking about climate justice and things like that. But, with the advancement of technology, a lot of things can be reversed. And we see how reforestation helps to, address a lot of climate issues. Therefore, in a smaller setting, there are still hope to reverse some of the effect. And every step matters. We need to really be more actual awareness about it and not just on the surface, but really understand the core of the issue and see what can we do. Maybe we cannot address, everything that is very big out there, such as the rising sea level, but we can actually maybe be part of advocacy that talks about, the communities that are affected by the rising sea level. Like what Father Colin says, people are becoming refugees because of climate change. So this is, I guess, another lens that youth can get involved. If they feel that, boring lah, this just recycle, right? Just see the bigger issue out there. It's actually more exciting lah. Yeah, you just have to read more and explore more. Yes.
So seeing this as more of an investment plan, right? Because you've
It is.
it's for future generations. I mean, it makes sense because all the climate damage that has been done so far happened over generations. And it's not right for us to instantly think that, okay, tomorrow I stop using a plastic bag, or I plant a tree, or I start recycling, and like all the world problem is gonna get fixed automatically, right? But Father Colin, final remarks from
Very
your side.
easy.
Yeah.
I actually echo what actually Bian said, and I would say be a mustard seed, meaning plant a seed of faith, be a seed of hope, be a seed of peace, be a seed of compassion, be a seed of kindness, be a seed of gratitude. Learn to say thank you for all that we have and learn to share it with others. Because we all know that if you plant just vegetables for a generation, you feed only your family. If you plant a tree of kindness, hope, peace, you will feed a new generation. And I think this is a message for all the youth. Go and do something, be aware, be active, and be answerable.
Thank you. Thank you so much to all of our three guests. It's
Right on time.
yeah, this is a conversation, I guess, that could really just keep going on and on, right?
Right, indeed.
But we do have a limited time, and hopefully, we can invite you guys back again for another episode sometime in the future to discuss more of these topics. Because, this is once again Climate Interfaith's first podcast. It's a great way to start it off. Thank you to the three of you once again for being amazing guests. Moving forward, it will be very interesting to see what the youth think about this. And then we'll continue these conversations as well so that we can explore more topics, different questions that the youth might have, right? Really get down to the nitty-gritty, and we'll see how that goes. But for now, that's pretty much it. This is PK and Yingling from Climate Interfaith. Thank you guys for watching.